Good morning, Gardenia! All right, we got two top stories today. Welcome to Adam versus the Man. Got to get these out of the way right on top of the show. The Crypto6.com. We've been covering the story since the day after it happened, I guess, last Wednesday. Almost been a week now. The Crypto6 are our 6 friends in Keene, New Hampshire who have been arrested by the FBI. In custody there still is the ringleader, Ian Freeman. And the Crypto6 is the Crypto6.com, great website where you can see a summary of their case and support what's going on. In the early morning of Tuesday, March 16, 2021, federal and local agents kicked the doors in at the Free Talk Live studio, Bitcoin Embassy, New Hampshire, and Shire Free Church, arresting 6 individuals and confiscated several Bitcoin ATMs, computers, and other personal items. So we've covered this a couple times already. We interviewed Captain Kickass, the Reverend Captain Kickass, who was one of the co-hosts of Free Talk Live, Ian Freeman's radio show that he runs out of the same house that was raided in Keene, New Hampshire, was create a bit of a challenge for them. So you can check out their show. I think they're caught up now getting stuff posted, but they did have some serious production challenges as a result of this. And while it's tempting to say, yes, civil disobedience, and what they're doing is great, and the way that Ian lives is great, and what these people are doing in helping bring crypto to the masses, making it more practical for everybody, they live a certain lifestyle, like like I do, that is just I think of the Albert Camus quote. The only response to an unfree world is to live in such a way that your very existence is an act of rebellion. And sometimes government will take one of the many targets that you have set up for them and say, we're going after that. And in this case, money laundering, operating an unlicensed whatever money exchanging business, financial crimes, victimless crimes. They're not even accusing them of any kind of fraud. What they're accusing them of doing is running a business without giving the mafia the government their cut. So it might seem like just this clean, righteous, civil disobedience case that is, relatively low liability, but that is not what this is for Ian Freeman. He's the only 2 of these 6 facing a couple specific more serious charges that have 2 charges that have mandatory minimums of 10 years each. So potentially up to 20 years for Ian Freeman. And this is a time that he doesn't just, we have an activist who doesn't just need your help avoiding undue prosecution by the state, but also in taking advantage of this opportunity to promote Ian's voice. I think it absolutely deserves it. And to make the points that this story makes inherently, that we're not free, that we can't say you really own your money if, well, you own it, but you can't do this with it. You can't do that with it. And you can't leave the country with it, of course. Another issue there. But one of the reasons they're holding Ian Freeman is that he's a flight risk because he has money, a little bit, and he might flee. But it is kind of an absurd case in this situation. So please check it out, thecrypto6.com. One other, so that was serious, not so much a downer, but a very serious headline. Our next top story we kind of have to just get out of the way this morning, unfortunately. From the Associated Press, police, 10 people killed in Colorado supermarket shooting. Shooting at a Colorado supermarket killed 10 people Monday, including a police officer who was the first to respond to the scene. Authorities said police arrested a suspect, but didn't reveal his name or any details about the shooting at an evening news conference where Boulder Police Chief Maris Harold fought back tears. Investigators had just begun sorting through evidence and witness interviews and didn't have details on a motive for the shooting at the King Superstore in Boulder, which is about 25 miles, 40 kilometers northwest of Denver, and home to the University of Colorado, said Boulder County District Attorney Michael Doherty. Quote, "This is a tragedy and a nightmare for Boulder County. These were people going about their day, doing their shopping. I promise the victims and the people of the state of Colorado that we will secure justice. The attack was the seventh mass killing this year in the United States, following the March 16 shooting that left 8 people dead at 3 Atlanta area massage businesses, according to a database compiled by the Associated Press, USA Today, and Northeastern University. It follows a lull in mass killings during the pandemic in 2020, which had the smallest number of such attacks in more than a decade, according to a database which tracks mass killings defined as 4 or more dead, not including the shooter. So who knows? It may be, just another person who snapped. Maybe more to this as they get a motive and more information. We may be coming back to this story tomorrow. But without further ado, comment Jim Freedom, now executive producer. Jim Freedom, what's on your mind today, brother? How you doing?
What's going on? Good morning to you, Adam. How you doing?
Well, I got to say, I'm a little bit tired. We had like 3 days in a row of, whoa, it just started snowing here.
What?
Yeah, it was like an
Right before
overcast
your
morning,
eyes?
and the weather's been nice, and I'm looking outside, and it's like, wow, it's snowing. Uh, no, but the last couple days we've been busting ass getting the insulation done on the cabin, and so it's like, all right, it's done. My arms are like all tingly and prickly, and my eyes still feel like they're on fire sometimes. Because I mean, you remember we did the fiberglass for this
Yeah.
building,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and that was your first time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we
Officially,
were
I
like,
mean.
for this little building, not a big deal. Slap it up in a couple hours, blow it out, take a shower, and you're fine. The cabin, this is really 10 by 24, 240 square feet. The cabin is 640 with a much bigger barn roof. And so I like my elbow, I hit the chair armrest. I'm like, oh yeah, I was doing insulation yesterday. But yeah, we were up late. We got it done, and it's the last time we have to touch the pink stuff on this project. Hopefully.
Thank goodness. The only thing I'll challenge there is how quickly you made it seem like we did the smaller building. You're like, oh, just slap it up, couple hours, go take a shower, you're good. Okay. I remember a
Okay, well
little bit more than a
now
few
that
hours, and it was
now that I know how to do it, as I did by the end of this cabin project, doing the Freedom Factory here would have only taken me a couple hours if I had known what we were if either of us had known what we were doing from the start. So thanks to Peter and our Pat's friend Red who came and visited this weekend and helped out with that. And I'm really excited now because we got the electrical in today. We test the electric system. And it's really cool. Like I am running an extension cord to the studio now instead of from the shipping container from the cabin where it's plugged into a wall outlet. That's like the major accomplishment. We got the solar power going through a breaker box, which I put together for the first time ever. It's not that hard. By the way, like the home electric, and I don't want to get anybody hurt here, but home electric is a well, let me back up. The entire construction industry is a very understood corporate racket. Why do we have stick frame buildings in so many places where thermal mass buildings would be more appropriate? Why do we have building codes that favor the use of certain products unnecessarily? Why do we have regulations about the content of materials and metal mixes and alloys and blah 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 blah? It's something that most Americans, just because the housing market kind of detaches us from building our own homes or working on them, uh, is largely unaware of. We don't really see that until we get into stuff like this, project building your own house. And with everything we're doing, it's kind of frustrating to think like there's government in all of this, but electrical in particular. As I this is my first time doing standard house electrical, running lines through 2x4 framing and standard fuse box and switches and outlets and light fixtures and rafters and things like that. And it's really simple. Like it's embarrassingly simple. And it's it's pretty hard to hurt yourself. I mean, in our case with the solar power system attached, we have a very simple safety switch. Press the inverter button off and you don't have any power going to anything you're working on and you're safe. Turn it on, and if it doesn't explode, you're still safe. I mean, there's certain like obvious things, and I have a decent background like in how electricity works. I remember high school physics after all. Like we studied that shit. But it's amazing how they've gotten like if they wanted people to feel comfortable working on home electric, and they could make it really easy, put up a big shutoff switch is really obvious in breaker boxes in as a standard home thing, but they don't do that, and they make it like, oh my god, you have to hire a professional, you have to hire and like even trying to research this stuff, it's not obvious. Like look up how to wire a breaker box. There's instructions out there, but for a specific one, like the instructions that came with it were how to mount it to the wall. It's like I could have figured that part out. Tell me where the wires go, and it's not hard. Strip wires, connect to make sure nothing's touching, everything's safe. it's so that was pretty cool. And
I just had an idea as you were saying that. I just had an idea as you were saying that. How cool would it be if companies started, like, they send you something, instead of having a book with the instructions in it, they send you a link to the YouTube video of a physical actual building of it. You know what I mean? So you can follow along with that specific product.
Well,
that would be intelligent.
I got a little knife sharpener, and this is kind of a disappointing example, right? But it was a really cool, like complex, hand tool, multi-faceted, everything in that knife sharpener, blade sharpener, and the packaging had a QR code that sent you to but it was the wrong one. So but yeah, that's really like, I don't know. I still like, I'm not a don't read the instructions guy. I read instructions.
I follow them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're putting, unless it's something you've done before, but even if you're putting together a bookshelf, like glance at, like, I like a paper book that sits there and you flip through it and you go, okay, step 1, 2, and it's all there. And if it's like, I'm not like an idiot for, well, you got to read every single word. No, skip dumb shit. But anyway, that's my take on it.
Yeah. No, you're right. I would say, and maybe even you could just send a digital copy of the instruction book so you can have a physical copy that you can scroll through on your phone.
Sure.
I'm just thinking of reducing paper because most people throw them away.
All right.
Anyways,
what do we have to promote today? I mean, I want to until the Crypto 6 is resolved. I kind of want to add that to our daily.
As far as the Crypto 6, we can promote them through on that page that the very first article we were pulling up has these on it. You can scan those to help with the Crypto 6, I believe. So we'll go ahead and throw that out there. And that's at thecrypto6.com. So check that out. And if you want to find a link to the Crypto 6, if it's too hard to type Crypto 6 into your computer.com, you can go to t.me/Adam versus man, which is a whole lot more letters. And you can join the public Telegram chat, and the link's right there. What's up, Ed? How you doing, brother?
Hey, I think I might have figured this damn thing out.
He's back there buttons now. Are you logged in now?
I am logged in.
So he's got power with the buttons now. So watch out. Ed's in the house.
I have power. Look out.
Ed is Adam, a co-host today. He's we've told you guys that we're doing revolving co-hosts, and Ed is the co-host of today. So that's going to be a good time.
Adam,
we're excited to have you.
I want to thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I really do.
Brother, we're gonna have fun today, man. You got the comments right. We're gonna your first job as co-host is to announce the comment contest, because you get to give away a membership in the Producers Club. So what do you want to see in the comments today, brother?
What do I want to see in the comments today? Let's say the very best example of how they're lying to us. okay, about whatever subject it is that they're lying to us about. Because my favorite, okay, and I've tried to get this out there, okay, quarantine. Quarantine is a term of 40 days, okay? When
And
they
it's what
come
you
out
do
with
for
this
sick
COVID
people.
crap, okay, they pulled a 14-day quarantine period out of their ass, okay?
Oh, sorry, Ed, we
Quarantine
missed
is
it.
40
We
days.
missed it. We missed it. We just passed the two or the 1 year anniversary of 2 weeks to flatten the curve. When Donald Trump announced that, it was a year and a week ago, almost exactly now.
If COVID-19 or the Wuhan virus or whatever you want to call it, if it was actually a disease or a malady that needed to be protected by quarantine, they would have closed everything for 40 days. They wouldn't have allowed anybody in or out of the country for 40 days, not 14 days. This was in an early period when they didn't know what the infection period is. There's still nobody can tell me today, if I ask you how long after you're infected with the virus does it take before you start becoming symptomatic? Nobody can answer the question.
That's maddening. Those are the kind of fundamental sort of statistical data understanding things that we should have had very quickly, that it still shocks me that they have been able to keep from us, because it's out there. I mean, you can go through the data and tease it out and say, well, from what we know, it's approximately this, but that we don't have a clear, decisive answer from globally collated data already is, I know that's a nerdy statement, but it's fucking offensive.
You know, my second one is they test things on animals so it doesn't hurt people. They tested it on animals and it killed them all. Why are you going to allow them to give it to you?
Don't worry, we tested it on animals first. Well, what happened? They
Yeah.
died. Then,
Shall I go on, or is that good enough example?
well, and
Let's leave it to the commenters. See what
I
they
kind
come up
Okay.
with.
I kind of want to say, like, so we did a COVID block yesterday. I try not to talk about COVID too much 2 days in a row, but I got to point out there's one headline not in the notes that we're going to get to tomorrow for a big COVID block. Angela Merkel, German chancellor, has been, leading the way with COVID restrictions, has announced that we are in a second pandemic.
I saw yesterday where I think it was Austin and Ted Broer. They had taken brand new test swabs and they looked at them underneath the microscope and they encountered Morgellons fibers on the swabs.
What's that?
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what Morgellons is. Okay. Well, people have things that they feel like their skin's crawling or something's in them, and then they have little multicolored fibers come and come out of their skin. I mean, it's a very weird thing. Very weird thing. You never heard of Morgellons, huh? Yeah.
No, but there's one of the things, again, like with the obfuscation of the data, the keeping some of these fundamental understandings from us, is that it makes it very easy to confuse uh, psychosomatic or other things for COVID in the bigger analysis, and it's really kind of crazy to think, how much how prone humans are to suggestion. I mean, one of the stories we're going to get to today is that scientists have discovered they can implant and then reverse memory. They can trick you into thinking you might be sick. And the way that Corona was introduced, remember when we called it the coronavirus? It was, well, these are symptoms and these are symptoms and this is a symptom, and then you could get COVID toes, and then you could get COVID fingers, and then your dick could fall off. Yeah, that was actually because it happened to one dude. One dude had corona and his dick, like something happened to his dick. It didn't, like, shoot off
Literally
like a
fall off.
rocket or anything. But he lost it. It was like it burst a blood vessel, something really horrific. Um, and they try to blame that on COVID. And so, I mean, there are a lot of dumb, crazy people in America, and I hate to like single them out in this sense, but that's just a fact, you know. And it's not that crazy people are dumb, and it's not that dumb people are crazy, but there are a critical mass, or there is a critical mass in America of people who are dumb enough and disconnected from reality enough and susceptible to suggestion enough that anything could be COVID. If they get a cold and happen to get a false positive, they're going to blame it on COVID. If you know, if they're with COVID, they're going to be in. If they go to the hospital and they get put on an intubator or a ventilator, and that those things are being overused and hurting people, and that just kind of got swept under the rug. I have been waiting for a good analysis of the ventilator challenge, and I haven't seen it. I really would like the audience's help with this, or the producers club, our editorial team. If we can find a story about the history of ventilators over the last year, where remember it was Cuomo going, we got to get them for everybody. We got to have New York City hospital beds, you know, lined up with ventilators for the surge of COVID patients. And it turns out they were killing people by overusing the ventilators, and no one seems to have really properly. I mean, it's not my job, it's not in my sector of journalism to do this write up, but somebody's got to. It's my job to share it. Somebody's got to have done this at some point, or somebody's got to be doing this and looking at it. And there was so much money because ventilators are expensive. We got to get the latest, and it was somebody made a lot of money off that particular sub racket, and people died as a result. But yeah, so to your contest today, Ed, I think it's, you know, how best comment about how we're being lied to. It's a big part of our mission in independent media and Adam versus the Man, to bridge the gap between the illusion that the authorities give us and reality. And that's why we're censored. But I do want to point out we have a hairy crew of men here today. This is and I am like the shaggiest I've ever been, and I am the trimmest on screen. I
It
kind of
literally goes from right to
Long
left.
live the pink chins, motherfuckers! Long live the pink chins!
Or this little military cuck right here, Steven, who still wants to be clean shaven for the man.
He probably wakes up every morning going, yes, Drill Sergeant, yes, Drill Sergeant, yes, Drill Sergeant, yes, Drill Sergeant.
It was yes, chief, motherfucker.
Maybe he hasn't heard about the investigation they did on the troops and hair. Hair is actually a part of your defense mechanism. You can sense danger through your follicles.
I can't grow fucking. My cheeks don't fucking come in. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that my cheeks don't grow in. I want to fucking look presentable. I fucking apologize. Long live the pink chins.
I'll bet you could have solid mustache.
Try eating less soy, boy.
I do have a solid mustache.
Cut the soy out of your diet. Eat more fish. You'll grow hair.
Okay.
You can have a goatee and just trim the cheeks. You know, I mean, I have to trim up here. Well, I tweeze. I just tweeze. Anyway, enough like vain grooming shit.
Wild man bush hair. I don't trim shit. I don't touch it. It falls out naturally when it's done being a part of my body.
Is that your full length beard? Is that your full natural length beard?
Yeah.
When was the last time you shaved?
Like 2 years ago.
Okay.
That used to be what men looked like all the time before scissors were invented.
I mean, Jesus probably looked pretty similar.
I gotta admit, I had long hair way down to here, but it got caught in a car alternator, and I lost about 6 inches of it. Then it got caught in a evap cooler, and I lost another. The third time I cut it off before it killed me. Too many machines.
Yeah, I was trying to tell you something.
I just can't wait till I can put it in a ponytail, and I don't have to dress it up for the show every day. I can just brush my beard. It's almost there. I got like the little like Jeffersonian ponytail going up. We'll get there. 9 years, no
9
shave.
years, no shave. Yes.
I haven't shaved my face like to the skin since I got out of the Marines, I think. Shit. November 30, 2006. Yeah. And no, I take that back. I haven't shaved since 3 days before I got out of the Marines, November 30, 2006.
I don't like shaving.
No, it feels like a natural. There's like there's I don't know. And Stephen, you also have to know if you don't have a beard, you're not a real libertarian.
I identify as an attack helicopter, so you don't grow facial hair.
I'm a Ron Paul Republican.
Oh yes, I was waiting to make fun of your shirt today, and that's good stuff.
Yeah, make
Man,
fun of
that's
it. Go ahead.
memories. I remember that, but I don't know. Maybe after we do the news today, we'll come back and debate the failure of the Ron Paul strategy.
Failure.
Exactly.
We planted the seed.
I knew.
We planted the seed that got Trump in office.
Yeah, that's a failure.
failure.
All right. Well, that's a big fail. All right, but I knew Ed would be triggered by that. We'll come back to it. So in the comments today, get your what Ed wants to see. What I want to see is explaining how they're lying to us.
You're too slow, boy. You're too slow.
That's a great theme for
Grab
today's
that
show.
rifle.
Much better than facial hair and hippie hairstyles. All right, so clear the screen. Everybody off, Tim. Everybody off. Get off my stage. All right, we're gonna get into the headlines today.
I'm an anarchist. I do what I want.
Take the controls away from Steven. All right, so keep those comments coming. Co-host Ed today. Comment Ed Freedom. Ed Vallejo will be getting those on screen, Captain Case. We're lab rats with the ability to vote. Oh, that's a sad view of things. The title of today's episode is It's the Taxes, Stupid. And our lead block is on economics. And it's we got five. No, wait. We've got four. And one of them is about West Virginia becoming a tax haven. We'll get to why in just a minute. But first, the New York Times via MSN.com, Biden team prepares $3 trillion in new spending for the economy. President Biden's economic advisors are pulling together a sweeping $3 trillion package to boost the economy, reduce carbon emissions, and narrow economic inequality, begin with a giant infrastructure plan that may be financed in part through tax increases on corporations and the rich, who will pass them on to the poor. Yeah, this is the different strategy in what bullshit we can force down your throats is very apparent here between the Democrats and Republicans. And you think back to Trump's tax cuts while growing government, all it did was move around who was paying for it and how. So the Republicans like to have this illusion, hey, we're cutting taxes for everybody across the board. And of course, we're going to reduce spending because we're for smaller government. Just kidding, corporate sponsors. And then they go and grow government, and we get screwed through inflation, through long-term debt, borrowing, et cetera, other economic inequalities. The Republicans and Democrats both serve the same masters of the banks and the major corporations and the super class. Remember the point of government: keep the super rich getting richer at the expense of the rest of us. So with Democrats, though, they have this, we're going to tax the rich. Yeah, right. Now you're going to make it look like you tax the rich, but government's going to grow even more. So now you have an excuse to grow government, and people go, oh, well, it's okay. You can grow government because you're just taxing the rich, and the rich are growing government. Well, are the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer still under Democrats' policies? Oh, yes, absolutely. After months of internal debate, Mr. Biden's advisors are expected to present the spending proposal to the president and congressional leaders this week, as well as begin outreach to industry and labor groups. Holy shit! I'm sorry, guys. I gotta interrupt the show here for just a minute to look out the window and show you all this. This is crazy. It is crazy free. This is global warming in action. No, But right here, look at this. There's the No Force One, the presidential campaign bus. You can see No Force One, and look at this. It was all clear this morning when I got here, but like nothing in the air, but overcast, and now we have snow on the ground. Welcome to Arizona. This is welcome to Gardenia. We have 4 seasons here in this wonderful Mediterranean climate. So there's your little shot of Gardenia for the day. All right, back to the news here. After months of internal debate, Mr. Biden's advisors are expected to present the spending proposal to the president and congressional leaders this week, as well as begin outreach to industry and labor groups. Of course, what would government policy be if not coordinated with industry and labor groups? On Monday, Mr. Biden's national climate advisor, Gene McCarthy, discussed his infrastructure plans and their role in combating climate change in a meeting with oil and gas industry executives. That's still who they really care about. Administration officials caution the details remain in flux, but the enormous scope of the proposal highlights the aggressive approach the Biden administration wants to take as it tries to harness the power of the federal government to make the economy more equitable. Right. So the Democrats pretend like the rich aren't getting richer and the poor aren't getting poorer. And there might be, I will say, this is not to say that there are no meaningful implications or changes in policy from Democrats pulling the levers, but it's still the super class picking a style of managing the rest of us. How do they manage the poor as the excuse to steal from the working class? Because that's what taxes are theft, and a big part of the justification for taxation is, well, we're taking from people who are working and giving it to people who are poor, and that's true in and of itself, but it's first of all, it's an illusion of this being the best system, that like Social Security, that like government is going to handle your retirement with a lockbox and it's going to be safe and secure and they're never going to touch that money and your retirement is safe. And I mean, even recently there was a law proposed in Congress to force Americans who are on normal payrolls to, well, there is a crow sitting on my giant geodesic dome in the snow right now. I'm sorry, raven. Such beautiful birds. Where was I? So with the middle class, or the working class more specifically, they go to them and say, look, unemployment insurance, where it could happen to you, we'll be the safety net for you too. And when they steal from the working class, how much of it do they actually give to the poor versus the rich? If they're shuffling around money between the poor and working class, but they're constantly siphoning off even more for the super rich, then it's much more accurate to describe the whole state welfare racket as an excuse. I mean, if like the average working American paying normal payroll taxes is working for government half the year. Yeah, half of your income goes to government. You might see 20 to 40%, whatever, out of your paycheck. But you add up all the fees, 20, 30, whatever it is. I'm glad I don't know. What the common, whatever someone put in the comments, are we getting comments up? What's the common range of taxes that people see taken out of their paycheck? I should know this. It's been a long time since I've drawn a regular paycheck and played that game. But the fees, fines, and taxes, sales taxes, vehicle registrations, all the other costs, is not counting, parking tickets and legal fees if you run into anything like that. The average working American is working for government half the fucking year. 3% to 68%. No. Like what the meat of the bell curve for people on payroll taxes. What do you see deducted from your paycheck? Isn't it mostly in like the 20 to 30% range? the point is, of course, that the other to get to 50% by the statistics that I've seen, adds in all those other costs of government that are sort of unavoidable. So 35 to 40, is it that high now? Are you kidding me? Really? 35? Is that, or is that yours? I mean, I assume that would be like a higher income bracket would be more in the 30. I mean, maybe all of my on paper income has been so low, and I've declined withholding as except for the essentials as much as possible. Maybe mine was a lot lower. I think you can still work a paycheck job and have. Okay, so Stephen McClure saying 24%. Someone looking up maybe an average, but anyway, that's the idea. So but the important thing is to understand that as we shift from the Trumpian, I mean, Trumpism wasn't really, it was a new flavor of Republicanism, as in very Democrat, very New York Democrat. But the shift to the Democrat Party being in power is going to lead to a different strategy of management of the working class and the middle class. And it's, again, to keep in mind that this is an excuse for them, right? The whole wealth, the reason the welfare state exists is to give government an excuse to steal through taxation from the middle class and hide the fact that they're really doing it in order to pay off their corporate and banking class, super class sponsors. So I would say that with a new administration, we can hope that they'll do at least, they'll throw us some breadcrumbs to pretend to live up to their rhetoric. So if they take 50% from the average working American, and I don't know, a fifth of that today goes to the poor, and I don't know, let's say another 20 being, I don't know, this is just off the top, someone could probably give me a better reasonable statistical analysis, but say another 20% does go back to you in social security benefits and government services and roads. Roads aren't that expensive, really. But things that the government actually does inefficiently, but provides as direct services back to you. And then another 20% is just maybe fraud, waste, and abuse, as they would call it. But really, it's a designed ripoff that's built into the system to say, yeah, the biggest chunk of what, I mean, it's probably like 5 to 10% goes to the poor, 5 to 10% goes to services, and 30 to 40% of what you make goes to just fuckheads who are profiting illegitimately from a system based on theft. They're profiting. They're benefiting from your stolen funds. So seeing that shift, in order to maintain the credibility of the racket as time goes on, they might have to go through periods where instead of it being 10% of that 50%, or a fifth of that 50%, tenth of what you earn as the average working American, going to take care of the poor. Maybe they got it. Under the Biden administration, they're gonna increase that to 15%, and that would be great. But maybe they'll increase the total amount that they take from you to 60%. And oh yeah, well, we'll take a little more from the working class, and we'll take half for our sponsors, and we'll give the poor half. And the thing is, from yes, there's more theft involved there, but looking at that as a utilitarian, perhaps it would be a significant alleviation of human suffering. Perhaps it's a step of government having to give up a part of its racket in order to maintain its core racket of the rich getting richer and all that. All right, we got a super chat celebrating conservatism. One of my favorite regular commenters here. Taxation is only a symptom of the Federal Reserve Bank. We had almost no tax before that. That's a good point. If it wasn't, and that's very true. That's very powerfully true. It deserves, I think, a little bit of deconstruction, because it's not just that, hey, we got a central bank, now we have taxation, because inflation tax isn't even accounted for in anything I just said. I don't think I meant when you say 50%, that's not pointing out that, oh yes, your dollars lose value over time because they keep inflating the monetary supply, printing money or creating it with a flick of a switch or the push of a button. And all right, Steven says it's not theft, it's surcharges. Yeah, okay. So the taxation of the inflation tax is directly a symptom, 100% of the Federal Reserve System. But the other ones aren't so obvious as direct symptoms as celebrating conservatism is making the point here. But even the income tax, if you had a money that wasn't required to pay tax, like this is how government gets away with forcing you to use the currency, because you don't have to use it for everything. I mean, if you want to trade seashells and carved sticks, shit, go for it. If you call it a dollar, they'll lock you up like von Nothouse. But yeah, check out the Liberty Dollar store if you don't know that one. That's one Ed's familiar with. But uh, you have to pay your taxes in U.S. dollars. You have to register your vehicle. You have to get a driver. You don't have to get those things. But if you want to own land where you pay a property tax, like unfortunately we do here for now in Gardenia, you have to use their currency. And that creates a floor to the value of a fiat currency that makes all the other taxes possible. And especially when they say, well, you have to pay an income tax. And if you're this corporate organization level and you meet these criteria, you have to do it through payroll withholding. Okay. So yeah, the Federal Reserve, you could say all taxation. Now, it's possible to tax people without imposing a fiat currency. You could charge property tax, have tax collectors go out and take property on behalf of the king, or pieces of silver or things like that. But without the sort of universal monetary system of that is imposed with a fiat currency, it's much harder to impose even what we sort of take for granted as basic sales taxes, income taxes, uh, property taxes. But compared to like usage fees, you could charge tolls. You own the bridge, charge a toll. What is your favorite color? So, administration officials caution that details remain in flux, which is government code for we're still waiting for various corporate interests to bid for policy and see who can buy us off first. But the enormous scope of the proposal highlights the aggressive approach the Biden administration wants to take as it tries to harness the power of the federal government to make the economy more equitable, address climate change, and improve American manufacturing and high-tech industries in an escalating battle with China. Oh, you thought fighting China was a Trump thing? No. It's a government wants an excuse to do more shit to take advantage of you thing. The $1.9 trillion economic aid package that Mr. Biden signed into law this month includes money to help vulnerable people and businesses survive the pandemic downturn, but it has little to advance the long-term economic agenda that Mr. Biden campaigned on, including transitioning to renewable energy and improving America's ability to compete in emerging industries like electric vehicles. Administration officials essentially see those goals, building out the nation's infrastructure and shifting to a low-carbon future, as inseparable. No, what's really inseparable is them auctioning off to their sponsors different deals to get a piece of this pie so that they can get their kickbacks. And I'm not just this was a story we covered yesterday on the show, that a lot of the top White House officials coming back under the Biden administration are ones who were there in the Obama years and in the intervening time have gotten very, very rich. That's what it's about. It's the revolving door government official high level corporate phenomena has reached a new level, and that's what this is really all about. But to the broader market, we go to the Associated Press. Overstimulated, stock soars 75% in historic 12-month run. All right, long comment from Anthony Ralston. Biggest lie our government ever told us that people can own valuable property willingly leased from the government as parent by taxes that if go unpaid results in government seizure. Ooh, That's a good one. That's a contender, I think, for Ed's contest here. Yeah, and you think about this with like, can you own land in America? It's an illusion. Like technically, you rent it because the state is the sovereign. It has effectively. I mean, what is it to own something? To control it, and in a lot of that is by social consent, right? Do you own something? Well, if other people agree you own it and respect your ability to use it and control it, then you own it, right? Well, you put it in those terms, shit, who owns America? The fucking feds. Who owns the feds? The bankers and their corporate sponsors. And within that, you go, well, don't I get to own a house? Not if you pay property taxes, because if you own it, you can do whatever you want with it, and no one can tell you, as long as you're not hurting anybody else, what you can and can't do with that. But if you own a house or you own land in America and you don't pay property taxes, government says, oh, no, sorry, we really own that, and you haven't been paying your rent. Get the fuck off our land. Get out of our house. They don't say it like that, do they? Oh no, they seize it, they repossess it, they have other nice terms that sound more like taxation instead of theft, but that's still what it is. And yes, it is, that is a big lie. And the other one, this gets to self ownership, the heart of the libertarian philosophy, the idea that you, as a human being, you own yourself, mind, body, soul, everything, whatever it is that is you own it, and no one else can control you or use force or violence or coercion against you to violate the fact that you own yourself, the integrity of your body. And they don't even talk about this as much as the, well, you own a house. They don't create this illusion of like, well, you own yourself. They don't even pretend. It's like, oh, yeah, well, your body, our choice. Oh, no. You thought your body, your choice? No. What drugs go in your body? Oh, your body, our choice. Government says these ones are bad, these ones are good. These are the only ones you're allowed to put in your body. Your income, your choice? No. Oh, you thought you owned your labor? No, you can't make money without giving us your piece or our piece. Government, because government owns you. What about food? I mean, yeah, you work a little hard to get around it, but what food are you allowed to eat? What goes in the grocery stores? Oh, well, that which is FDA approved and has the government seal of approval on it, regardless of how much poison and toxin is in it. By the way, that gets us to another story we're coming to later today about all the chemicals in the human body. Oh, hate to have to tease that one out, but it's coming. All right, back to the economics. Overstimulated. Stocks soar 75% in historic 12-month run. On March 23, 2020, the S&P 500 fell 2.9%. In all, the index dropped nearly 34% in about a month, wiping out 3 years' worth of gains for the market. That turned out to be the bottom, even though the coronavirus pandemic worsened in the ensuing months and the economy sank deeper into recession. And there's so much here. I don't know. Should I take the time? I feel like I have to deconstruct some of this statist language because, I mean, the stock market is an inflated set of assets that is a primary tool of corporate manipulation. Oh, geez, Mike Freeman, Adam's hairline is with it. I think it's been like this since I was like 17, and everybody said I was balding since I was 17. It's like, no, I just kind of look like that. All right. So 34% in about a month, wiping out 3 years of gains for the market. This was the initial response to the shutdowns, the lockdowns. It's a great chart you've got on screen there, Jim, showing this because it shows in stark contrast what that 70% gain means since then. Remember, the stock market represents sort of money piled up around corporate America. I know it's not the best analogy, but when you invest, when you buy stocks, you give the man your money and get a piece of the company. You own it, but do you really control it? I mean, you can sell it, but that's about it. Do you have any control in the company? No, you're kind of giving up control of your money, hoping that it's going to gain value through that process. The problem is the people who really control the market control a lot of the bigger political strings and will do things like a lot of the manipulation around the virus in order to suppress the market. These are long-term things. I mean, you gotta like recognize the intelligence here, and the strength of your opponent, so to speak. The people who are ripping us off, who are running society, have a very low time preference. If I may, sidebar on an important economic concept that is often misunderstood, the very simple one that is relevant to your life. And the language is somewhat confusing, but conventionally, economics describes the phenomena of high time preference versus low time preference. Bitches love those dudes with low time preference. Yeah, bitches be loving those low time preference dudes. No, it's because high time preference means I have a high preference for spending that money now. Like if I go to the hospital with a broken leg and I need $10,000 to pay a medical bill, like now, or they're not going to fix my leg, they won't finance it. I need $10,000 right now. That puts me at a disadvantage economically to have that immediate need, right? And there's some things that are inherently high time preference. You need to eat, you need to breathe, right? These are sort of high time preference needs. But financially, the more you organize yourself on a low time preference basis, what that means is that you have more long-term thinking. I know this isn't the best like econ professor 2-minute explanation of the concept, but you'll get the idea. So if you can change your mentality as much as possible, or your economic organization, your personal finance, whatever you're planning in your own life, to being low time preference, to being patient, to figuring out a way to delay gratification. What is this picture on screen? Is it? It's cool graphic, but anyway, am I like that far off? It's just like, all right, weird image time. So the people who are running the system are extremely low time preference. They think on a very long time frame. And when the stock soared 75% is not the stuff that you see making huge headlines. The media does not get paid to run around going, look how much money rich people are making. Oh my gosh, they're getting so gosh darn rich. Isn't this great? I mean, they do that when they sort of have to as a matter of journalistic responsibility. They cover, the world's richest, like it's a, Elon Musk versus Jeff Bezos versus Bill Gates kind of thing, because that sells papers. But reminding people how poor they are and how badly they're getting ripped off does not sell papers. So the stocks fell 34%. Like that was, oh my God, the sky's falling. And the thing about high time preference versus low time preference, if you are in a strong economic position, as in you've got savings or liquid or asset, compared to if you don't, and then the market goes down or the economy has a downturn, the people in a high time preference position are going to be at a huge disadvantage. So if you lost your job and you had money in the stock market and it went down 34%, well, you might have to sell off some stock at the bottom. And the people with low time preference get to swoop in and buy it from you much cheaper than what you paid for it. Remember, buy low, sell high? Well, what the powers that be have been able to do is manipulate most small investors into the opposite, where they bought when the market was good. They bought it indiscriminately through 401ks, through other automatic savings plans. And they didn't stop and think, well, is the market high right now? Is it going to come down? Because leave that to the professionals, the experts, the financial planners. No, bullshit. You're going to get swindled, and this is what happens. And now there are people hurting because a lot of people who are small-time investors, when they lost their jobs or their business, it's a lot of business owners with small portfolios who, maybe have 10 to, a couple $100,000 in the stock market going, shit, I'm going to lose my business. We're shut down for this pandemic nonsense, and I got to cash out some shares here in order to keep making payroll. And then the powers that be go, hey, let's keep this motherfucker shut down long enough he has to sell his business. We'll buy that for pennies on the dollar. And those with low time preference, the bankers running the system are happy to manipulate you into a high time preference situation that ends up with them owning everything. Yeah. So massive amounts of support for the economy from the Federal Reserve and Congress limited how far stocks would fall. The market recovered all its losses by August. Well, that's good. The government did its job of keeping the rich people from losing too much money. But it's not just that, it's when they crashed the market with the coronavirus response, they were able to use that as an excuse to pump money with Fed and Congress into not just, oh, let's take care of everybody. Let's have a tax holiday. Let's not charge people taxes for a while and see what happens. No, it was let's keep stealing from people and give it to our friends. It was targeted relief, support for the economy. And I point out when people use the term the economy, they're often referring to these false bullshit metrics that are imposed on it. It's like, really, how are rich people doing ripping off everybody else? Let's call that the economy. Let's support that. As time passed, the quick development of coronavirus vaccines helped stocks shoot even higher. So did growing legions of first-time investors who suddenly had plenty of time to get in the market using free trading apps on their phones. It all led to a 76.1% surge for the S&P 500 and a shocking return to record heights. This run looks to be one of, if not the best, 365-day stretches for the S&P since before World War II. Let me translate this. This run looks to be one of, if not the best years of ripping off the American people by government in order to serve the super rich. It's been a really good year for the super class. Look at how many more billionaires there are. We covered this on the show yesterday because I was like, wait, how many billionaires are in the world? And I asked Google, and I got a number from 2019, and it was 2,800 something. I asked, what about 2021? 3,200 and something. There are more billionaires than ever before. Luke himself weighs in. Yup, capital gains tax of up to 50% is what you get hit with when you sell shares and cash out. It's ridiculous. Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. They don't let you take your money out of the system. It's kind of locked into the casino. It's like, they say the stock market is a casino, and there's that analysis. It's really worse than that. I could come up with some bad analogies. It's a whorehouse where they take your wallet and do other dirty things. Mike Freeman, don't forget interest rates, fractional reserve banking, and increased dependence on credit. Yeah, so there are all these other major rackets engineered into this, and it's fun to look at a story like this about the stock market doing so well and be able to deconstruct it this way based on and month-end figures. The last time the S&P 500 rose this much in a 12-month stretch was in 1936, according to Howard Silverblatt, senior index analyst at S&P Dow Jones Indices. And what was 1936? I don't know, some other major manipulation, celebrating conservatism. Stock market is just gambling, otherwise the price would be based on the dividends paid out. Okay, so not quite. So when you're and I'm not an advocate of investing in stocks in the sense of mainstream corporate exchange listed stocks, because it's so manipulated and you're at a general disadvantage. I'm in favor of buying stocks of small companies, of individual businesses. If someone wanted to buy a share of Adam versus the Man somehow as an investor, and we parse it out into some sort of stocks in the business or shares, and if you were investing in your brother's startup food truck and you want to own a share of that as a business, excuse me, those are great investments. That's what I support. Excuse me. Except crypto and gold and silver as long-term savings / investments, monetary devices. But when you're investing in a company, when you say it's gambling, it's speculation, because they don't go based on dividends. So when you buy stocks in a company, every depending on the terms of the company's charter and whatever, and of course you don't get to change this. the guys in suits on the 50th floor or whatever, they're the ones who get to vote on this kind of stuff and screw you over. But of the earnings of a company, a certain amount is paid in dividends to stockholders. But there's also, that's not the only value of a stock, because oftentimes a company, or even like you invest in your brother's food truck and he says, hey man, I'm making a lot of money, I know you own half the business, I could give you half this income, but I would like to reinvest it. Since you own half, you get to vote, you can veto this, we can go, but let's take our income and invest it in a second food truck, or in improvements, or in hiring more people, and expanding our menu, or whatever it is to grow the business. The thing is, with these major stocks, it's salaries for CEOs and reinvestments, and it's not dividends in a fair way that would say compensate you as a small stock owner. Ed, did you need to weigh in on this? Full screen?
No, no, my internet connection crashed. I had to put it back on, and when I put it back on, it just showed me. I don't even know how I got here. Take me off.
Right on. Are you enjoying this this economic breakdown? I know this is good. Like, Ron Paul theme. Ron Paul really did a great job of turning a lot of libertarians onto this alternative economic narrative.
Yeah, I'm having a great time here trying to interact the commenters with what you're saying. They're very astute on their comments. They're really out there. I mean, they're good. I give you guys all kudos. I'm trying to get your comments in when he's talking about something that you've made a comment that's relating to. I mean, that's that's what I got to do right now, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job.
Oh, it's awesome. I love the flow. Keep them coming. But hey, Ed, where are you calling in from today? Where are you co-hosting from today?
I am off grid on 5 acres, just about 16 miles south of Winslow, Arizona. I have been living alone in isolation since January of last year, when the first Chinese student at ASU contracted the Wuhan Chinese virus, and I left Phoenix, Arizona. I went off grid, and here I am. I have my own power. I paid $27 in taxes last year.
Nice. So how's the weather there right now? What's your elevation? Are you getting this storm?
I'm at 4,500 feet, and I'm right on the edge of your storm. I got a 20% chance of snow. It's about that temperature. I look up in the sky. I could see the giant storm that's going on. It goes from Flagstaff all the way over to Williams, and you're just about in the center of it almost.
No, well, we're half an hour west of Williams, so hopefully that means this will be passing us over pretty soon here if it's moving east.
Yeah, it's heading east. I'll be getting what you got in probably by 11:30, 12 o'clock.
But yeah, we're in like low. I don't. Can you see? Is this a good shot? Can you see that all right?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is,
beautiful.
But it's. I was hoping to get some work done outside today. No, after the last 3 days of construction work, I'm ready to take a break and get some work done from battle boats.
There's my sky, and that's what it looks like in your direction. Can you see it?
Hold on, I only saw black there.
His video is froze right now. We can still hear you, Ed, but your video's catching up.
So oh, too bad. I walked outside to show you what it looked like in his direction. All right, I'll log back in, I guess.
I got a wet puppy here. Pat should have let you back into the barn. Why were you? Marilyn likes to play outside. No, there's no heat in here, silly. We ran out of propane. All right, now my screen's frozen. It smells like wet dog in here a lot right now. All right, Marilyn, you gonna make yourself comfy, I hope? No, go to your bed. Hold on, guys. I gotta take my puppy got out and she got all wet and she's cold. And
awesome.
She needs her bed now.
Well, I'll just take a second. I came on stage, Adam. I'm going to remove you so I can do promos while you're handling that business. Because we forgot to tell you today, we told you to join the public channel, t.me/Adam versus the man. But if you want to join the Producers Club private chat where you're sure to see Adam posting pictures and things like that of the winter storm that he's experiencing right now. I can bring it back on while I'm doing this. But if you want to join the private Producers Club, go to adamversustheman.com, like you see at the bottom of the screen there. Boy, we're having all kinds of fun with the screens today, aren't we? People popping in and out. This is a fun show. This is how we roll. So go to adamversustheman.com, like you see at the bottom of your screen there, and check out the beautiful webpage CJ has put together. When you're there, you see a button right here. It says Patreon. You can click on that. As soon as you click on that, you'll see the different levels of how you can support the show. $1, $5, $10, or even $50 a month. $10 a month is where it's at. That'll get you access into the Producers Club that I mentioned. After that, you can click the back button in your browser if you want to, or just open up a whole new page and go back to the website and check out the shop. See it right here? Click on that button. It takes you to show you all the stuff CJ's put together. Awesome selection of Adam versus the Man gear and Freedom gear. So check that out and get yourself some. Click the back button again, or you don't even have to click back button. Just scroll back up to the top of the page. Cigar Federation. That's our affiliate program. Excellent website. They got a ton of cigars to choose from, exotically flavored. My favorite, the JSK Nugs, same as Adam. So check those out. Use promo code ADAM10 to get 10% off of your entire order there. And lastly, maybe most importantly, is if you're on Instagram, visit at the Garden of Freedom on Instagram, because there's definitely going to be some new pictures going up of that storm that you're seeing. You see, there's a time lapse from yesterday's sunset, all kinds of good stuff on here. So definitely check that out and get involved so you can see what's going on up there.
Lapse. That was a really cool one. It's got the campfire, and oh, now I'm frozen. Yeah, play that last one.
Okay, all right, I'll bring it up.
19 seconds. I got this yesterday. I was pretty happy with it. Oh, you don't have the music on it. I got audio with that one.
Oh,
it's okay.
Bad.
It's just like cheesy elevator music behind it. But
well, that's
really,
that's
really
the teaser. They got to go to Instagram at the Garden of Freedom, and you can check out the audio on that.
All right. Well, I've had a lot of fun with the economic analysis so far, but we need to get to some more headlines and actually finish this econ block. So we go to Chicago Tribune column, West Virginia, another tax-free haven. Remember the theme of today's show? Well, Ed's theme for today's show is the difference between the lies and the reality. But it's the tax is stupid, as the title of the show is today. And this is really the heart of the matter, where I see this, and I know there have been plenty of other and better historical examples of taxation being lowered in order to lure citizens, but now it's just sort of like there's a hyper awareness in the market for governments competing for citizens because of the internet, because of the global connectedness. And you go, hey, look, look at that country over there. They have a government that does this and doesn't do this, and it's better for them like that. And really, over here, our government does this and it sucks. And it's like, well, why can't we have it like that? That just basic comparison of the growing global awareness under the internet is still being realized. I talk about the internet effect and us implementing technologies that already exist fully to improve the human experience. The internet, it's been around in basic stuff of the internet in terms of the implications and lessons learned from it are still being realized. So West Virginia is unique among America's 50 states. At a convention in Wheeling, Virginia in 1861, delegates from Virginia's northwest counties, which were loyal to the Union, voted to break away from that state over the issue of slavery and their refusal to be part of the Confederate States. West Virginia is again attempting to break away, this time on the issue of taxes, while the Biden administration wants to raise federal income taxes to cover overspending. The governor of West Virginia, Jim Justice, wants to reduce and eventually eliminate his state's personal income tax. If successful, West Virginia, lost my place here. If successful, West Virginia would join 9 other states that do not impose state income taxes on their citizens. Though his state has experienced a population decline for 7 years, Governor Justice believes now is the right time to reverse the trend by cutting the state's income tax by 60% in the first year, leading to its eventual elimination. Yeah. In an interview, I asked, and I should give the author credit for this. This is Cal Thomas, Tribune Content Agency. In an interview, I asked the governor for his rationale behind erasing the state's major revenue source. He said it's because the state's economy is booming and it now has $100 million surplus in spite of the pandemic. That's because he says businesses, including restaurants, are 100% open and people are flocking to the state to spend time and money. He estimates that if his tax cut proposal passes, the majority Republican legislature will put $2,200 more in people's pockets. Every single person in the state will end up cash positive. Holy shit. It's not just, oh yeah, we're gonna phase it like 60% in the first year. I'm thinking this is part of that inevitable, comparison awareness. Hey, they don't do taxes there. We don't have to do taxes here, do we? No, you don't. Now, related story in sort of taxes going in reverse, Illinois Illinois City first in U.S. to offer Black residents reparations. Evanston, Illinois, on Monday became the first U.S. city to make reparations available to its Black residents for past discriminations and the lingering effects of slavery. The Chicago Suburban City Council voted 8-1 to distribute $400,000 to eligible Black households. Each qualifying household would receive $25,000 for home repairs or down payments on property. Now, I don't mean to in any way whatsoever reduce the significance of the Black experience in America. I'm all about recognizing white privilege and recognizing the destructive effects of slavery. But if it's what I've seen is that there's a Catholic church program where they're looking to donate $100 million to individuals as a kind of reparations. And hey, if you're one of the thing about poverty is it continues to exist at the pleasure of the super rich. There are, if you're worth $1 billion, and there's at least 3,000 of you now, you're saying that it's more important for you to have that $1 billion than to end poverty or end hunger in America. Some of these major things you just go like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. And the Catholic Church, they might have to sell like a painting or something to cover this $100 million initiative, but it's chump change for them. You can make a big difference. If it's a city doing it, I'm also all about government taking responsibility. I say reparations for stoners. Let's look at people who have been unjustly locked up in the drug war, and people who have actually gone to jail. Now, guess what? That's going to be a lot of Black people. Yeah, no shit. Rather than give money to people for being Black, and if you want to say, in a city, I do like that they included past discrimination, because that's something that government is never held accountable or rarely held accountable for, and is a huge negative impact of racism beyond immediate damages and suffering. But if it's government, I would rather see sort of like I'd rather see a little more intellectual analysis rather than a racist analysis, because that's what this is. And something that's compassionate and intended to be helpful, I hate to point out as being racist, but it's racist when you say you're eligible because you're Black, not you are victimized because you were Black, and because you were victimized, we want to compensate you. But in order to keep the existing power structure going, you talk about our theme of getting to the truth from the lies or the illusion foisted on us by the authorities, uh, the idea that this poverty that we live in is natural or normal or acceptable, that's going away. And that's a really good thing. It's not that we're about to overthrow the whole system, but maybe we've gotten to a point of sufficiently superfluous wealth that you can't maintain this power structure and still have people in America suffering or suffering economically, kids going to bed hungry, shit like that. People not capable, if the average American can't cover basic medical bills, we're all going to look up together and be like, let's have a revolution or something. This has to end. And so the managers have to go, shit, we're all rich enough. We have to really take care of them. And the end effect might be that when people aren't struggling, they can start understanding. They can take the time to go, well, how did we end up in this situation in the first place? Yeah, we really need to do something about this. So all the general calls for reparations, I'm not against them in some way being even targeted to Black Americans in recognition of unique Black victimization, but I still see there's a problem with the race itself being the criteria here, because there are plenty of I don't say plenty, while 99% of Black Americans throughout American history have been extremely disadvantaged. Let's not steal from everybody to take care of that 1% that's a few percent of those alive today, like, Kanye West. I don't think the system owes him anything, except maybe some better therapy. All right, moving on to a little political block here. Wall Street Journal. Washington, D.C. statehood divides congressional hearing. When I lived in the district, this was a fun issue for me. Like, why is the District of Columbia, why do the people who live in this area not have the same rights as people in the other states? Statehood for other territories, Guam, Puerto Rico, trying to stifle a sneeze and forcing myself to yawn. So this is like, why can't we have statehood for DC? Now, if you live in DC, you're like right at the seat of the empire. There are plenty of other privileges and advantages to living in DC. I'm not crying over the lost rights of DC residents, but more importantly, the right to self-determination is at the heart of this. Why do we have to live in this area and not have the right to the same, at least, amount of partial bullshit illusion of self-determination that people in other jurisdictions have? So Democrats and Republicans sparred Monday over statehood for Washington, D.C., with proponents saying residents were due full voting rights and critics calling it a partisan power grab and arguing the city's unique status raised constitutional hurdles. The real reason is the flag lobby. They can't redo all the flags and have 51 stars. I'm just kidding. The flag lobby loves this. Of course, the counterintuitive narrative turns out to be true, because if you added a 51st star to the flag, they're going to be making a lot of new flags. The House Committee on Oversight and Reform held a hearing on the H.R. 51 legislation that would give residents full representation in Congress, with 2 senators and 1 House member rather than 1 non-voting House delegate. Residents' power in presidential elections would remain the same with 3 electors. So this is the crux. Just so you know, in DC, license plates say taxation without representation, because as a DC resident, you still pay federal taxes, but you don't even get any representation in Congress. There's 1 non-voting House delegate. I forget what the title is, but it's like shadow rep. No, it's something like. I forget. But they get 1, and no senators. So, again, I'm not going, the injustice of it, but it is a weird quirk in our political system to see that it's being resolved, and that if that changes, it might raise other similar issues that lead to more sort of flexibility in the system, and that's interesting. All right, someone shared something about how badly we're getting shadow banned on YouTube right now. This is very strange, because we're getting we're getting a good flow of comments, and Ed's filtering for relevance here. Apparently, YouTube is saying we have 3 viewers after. Oh no, that's Facebook. I'm sorry. Yeah, I see this Facebook on Facebook Live. We've had 47 shares and 3 live viewers. Okay, Facebook. Thanks. Yeah. And just so everybody knows, we broadcast on multiple platforms. Still focus on YouTube, unfortunately, as the primary here. Excuse me. But we broadcast at least on Facebook and Telegram, or excuse me, Telescope, a couple other places as backups. 42 viewers. That's on Facebook or on YouTube. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We trust you, Google. We really trust you. MSN.com. We go to the Washington Post next for a little Trump follow-up. Trump predicted news ratings would tank if I'm not there. He wasn't wrong. Of all Donald Trump's prophecies and predictions, that Mexico would pay for a border wall, that the coronavirus would spontaneously disappear, that he would be easily reelected, at least one wasn't entirely wrong. As he augured in 2017, newspapers, television, all forms of media will tank if I'm not there, because without me, their ratings are going down the tubes. Barely 2 months into the post-Trump era, news outlets are indeed losing much of the audience and readership they gained during his chaotic presidency. In other words, journalism's Trump bump may be giving way to a slump. After a record-setting January, traffic to the nation's most popular mainstream news sites, including the Washington Post, plummeted in February, according to the audience tracking from firm ComScore. The top sites were also generally doing worse than in February of last year, when the pandemic became a major international news story. The Post, for example, saw the number of unique visitors fall 26% from January to February and 7% from a year ago. New York Times lost 17% compared with January, 16% over last February. Big chunks of people not paying attention to politics anymore because Trump is not there. And I bemoaned this as a problem, although gave Trump the credit for being great at getting attention. And we had to skip a lot of news stories over the last few years because, frankly, they were bullshit, palace intrigue, drama, silliness, just trying to get your attention. Pay attention to politics. Government is important. No. And like, it's not even politics and government are important. It's the personalities are important. It's the drama is important. And man, fuck that. I was so happy to ignore it. But there were a lot. I mean, a huge chunk of the mainstream news audience that didn't think that way, and were tuning in and were sucked in by the Trump show. You think about it, it kind of makes sense. He had a very successful television career before running for president. It's just another TV show for him. He brings that audience over. So I want to say I think that's a bad thing for America. It's a bad thing for politics. Not that people are paying attention, but that people are paying attention to the wrong shit and watching the mainstream media that covers it from the distraction drama perspective. So another Trump story here, follow up, aside from all of his legal challenges. I've been seeing some of those stories, by the way. I don't want anybody to think that I'm not seeing that or that I'm skipping that, but I'm kind of waiting for some critical juncture or a summary of all of Trump's various legal challenges right now. But daily news from Yahoo: Trump says his statements are getting picked up by almost everyone who needs Twitter when there's email. Former President Donald Trump Monday claimed he has more power to reach Americans even after being cut off from millions of followers on Twitter and other social media sites. As Trump said on a podcast with right-wing host Lisa Booth, quote, "When I put out a statement, it's much more elegant than a tweet. They're getting picked up by almost everyone. It's big. It's in a certain way, it's bigger than ever. 53. So someone's commenting as me. We have 53 viewers and 250,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. Yeah, that's right. Trump, who was permanently barred from Twitter for inciting his followers to storm the Capitol on January 6th, now issued statements via his political action committee and his Florida-based political operation. Now, it's an interesting question that I don't think I can answer decisively at a glance, but is Trump is obviously not nearly as relevant anymore as an ex-president, thank goodness, right? But is he so given that inevitable dip in his relevancy, how much of that is due to just not being president versus not being on Twitter anymore? And of course, he's going to bullshit and make excuses and say, oh no, Twitter had nothing to do with it. I'm reaching more people than ever, because that's his flavor of bullshit. But maybe we'll have a better analysis of that in a few months. The EpicTimes.com, not so sure about the source here. 24 more charge in voter fraud probe, prosecutors say. The Epoch Times was, significantly Trumpian, let's just say. Federal prosecutors in North Carolina said Friday that 24 additional people have been charged in an ongoing probe into voter fraud, including 2 who were accused of illegally voting in the 2016 presidential election. Gabriela Guzman Miguel, 26, and Jose Abraham Navarro, 42, both of Mexico, are accused of having voted despite lacking the legal status to do so, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of North Carolina said in a list of defendants obtained by the Epoch Times. The list described both as aliens. Aliens. Aliens are voting. That's how we get the lizard people elected. So what they're looking at is individual cases of voter fraud, people voting illegally. And so this is a trumped up headline that a lot of the delusional Q-tards and Trump supporters, Trumplicans, will hold on to. As well, Trump really won. He just, it was voter fraud. See, they're still prosecuting cases. All right, so we go now internationally for a couple stories to Israel. Associated Press: Israel votes. Netanyahu's fate hangs on Tuesday's elections. Israelis began voting on Tuesday in the country's 4th parliamentary election in 2 years, a highly charged referendum on the divisive rule of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Opinion polls forecast a tight race between those who support Israel's longest-serving premier and those who want anyone but Bibi, as he is widely known. Vote, 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 Netanyahu said after casting his ballot in Jerusalem. His wife, Sarah, at his side, he called the occasion a festival of democracy. That's not a bad impersonation. This is the moment of truth for the state of Israel, he said. Said his, wrong voice. Said his rival, Yair Lapid, as he voted in Tel Aviv. And it's been an interesting process. One truth: Israelis are weary of the do-overs. The balloting, like Israel's world-leading vaccination campaign, got good reviews for organization, only because everyone involved has had lots of practice, with the potential of even more if the results don't produce a governing majority. That answer might not be clear for weeks. It would be better if we didn't have to vote, 4 times in 2 years, said Jerusalem resident Bruce Rawson after casting his ballot. It's a little bit tiring. And there's a major shakeup here that could represent. I mean, Netanyahu leaving, whether he's able to. If he wins, he will. It will be because he's a cheater. He's cheating. He's just like typical, duopoly bullshit here. I'm not saying anything crazy or like out of the norm. I'm just saying the way that modern political parties that dominate their systems lean on the political process to keep incumbents in power. And if there is a shift, it'll be a major shift, I think, over the next few years in Israeli policy. I think we have that to look forward to. Now, here in the United States, when you run for office, as we've covered as libertarians, we face shadow banning and legal persecution, sometimes even drug raids and busts and arrests and crazy stuff because we are running for office, as was the case with me when the day we announced I got pulled over and illegally raided and in my RV bus, and ended up doing 10 days in a Texas detention center. But in Mexico, it's a little bit worse. Fox 5 New York: politicians keep getting killed in Mexico. Yeah. Mexico City, Mexican officials condemned the weekend of killing of a would-be candidate for mayor of a small town in the southern state of Oaxaca. Yvonne Gallegos Carreño was planning to run for mayor in the small town of Ocotlan de Morelos, Oaxaca, before she was gunned down in her car on Saturday. Analysts said Monday 18 pre-candidates have been killed so far in the run-up to the June midterm elections. They were killed before they opened formal campaigns. Anthony Ralston weighs in. You're dancing at Jefferson Memorial made me a libertarian all those years ago. Oh, thanks. I love that feedback. The consultancy firm Edelect said in a report that killings have come mainly in violence-plagued states like Veracruz on the Gulf Coast and Guerrero on the Pacific, but isolated killings have occurred in a half dozen other states. While motives may vary in cases that have been solved, politicians in Mexico face threats from drug cartels, political rivals, and corrupt police. Mexico's National Women's Institute said in a statement that violence against women cannot be allowed or tolerated in a democratic system. Follow up to that, the Sun, cutthroat cartel inside the Jalisco New Generation cartel who hang butchered rivals from bridges and make millions from avocados. Yeah. When police found a body wrapped in plastic on a park bench with kitchen knives plunged into its chest, they originally thought it was a mannequin, but they now believe it's the mangled remains of one of the biggest gangsters in Mexico. Carlos Enrique Sanchez, known as El Cholo, is believed to be the latest gruesome hit by the Jalisco New Generation cartel, whose ruthless rise to global dominance has left an appalling history of bodies and screams in its wake, ripping out victims' hearts, dissolving their bodies in barrels of acid, and even targeting pregnant women. And I'm going to turn this back on America for a second because it's the drug war that does this, that creates an illegal fountain of money for anybody willing to break the law to step up and grab onto it, whether it's prohibition of alcohol or cannabis or cocaine. You end up with the same effect. All of these organized crime organizations, the fact that they have the money to get away with this, the fact that they are able to commit these murders and wreak this havoc and end up killing politicians is only possible because of the American war on drugs. Private POB, PVTBOB comments here. This is your last warning. The cop yelled at you while his hands were wrapped around your throat because you were dancing. Yeah, I don't blame you for being libertarian. Well, it's not because of that. I was a libertarian before that. That certainly didn't hurt. But we made a lot of people see the coercion of the state laid bare with the dance protest at the Jefferson Memorial, of course. Isaac Barrientos and the drug war. Yes, indeed. Now, quick media news as we get into our grab bag here from DNYUZ.com. Ellen DeGeneres loses 1 million viewers after apologies for toxic workplace. When Ellen DeGeneres returned from a summer hiatus to open the 18th season of her daytime talk show in September, she came armed with an apology. Quote, "I learned that things happen here that never should have happened. I take that very seriously, and I want to say I am so sorry to the people who were affected." Those remarks came in the wake of reports of workplace misconduct at the Ellen DeGeneres show. Viewers tuned in for the apology. This year's season opener had the highest ratings for an Ellen premiere in 4 years, and then they tuned out. Ellen has, I got a lot of mixed feelings about this. I'm just kind of following it from a distance as a media story. Ellen has lost more than 1 million viewers since September, according to the research firm Nielsen, averaging 1.5 million over the last 6 months, down from 2.6 million in the same period last year. Now, I'd like to hope this is sort of tuning out from. I'm not going to hate on Ellen. The only thing I could say to hate on Ellen, well, there are plenty of things, but I like Ellen. I love Ellen. I love her personality. I love her on-screen presence. I love her attitude. I love the positive, upbeat nature of her show. I love the way that she's handled her own identity politics. There's a lot to love about Ellen, but why is she allowed to get so big? because she doesn't talk about anything important that challenges the current authority, that gets to the deeper problems and appropriately lays blame at the feet of those who deserve it for the biggest ills in society that she does acknowledge and address. And that sort of there's a sort of blandness to shows like that inherently. And the only thing we can do to single her out is for being one of the best. John Smith, does Ellen eat children? South Park said she does, and they make everything a joke. I'm pretty sure she doesn't. By the way, vaccination special is on my queue. Got to download, watch the South Park vaccination special. But anyway, to the next story in our grab bag. From thesmokinggun.com, couple busted for explicit oral encounter. And I like this story because the dude has a beard like mine. Along with the drunken collegians rampaging across Florida this weekend, a couple in their 40s allegedly engaged in an illicit spring break encounter that ended with their arrest for lewd behavior in public. According to police, Grant Mulder, 48, and Lauren Bowe, 41, were spotted Saturday afternoon around 1:45 p.m. trysting in Largo Central Park in Largo, a city in the Tampa Bay area. The couple, cops say, were spotted near a Veterans Memorial inside the 70-acre park. As detailed in one arrest affidavit, Largo Police Department officer witnessed Bowe lying on her back with her legs spread apart and her vulva exposed as her boyfriend and co-defendant performed cunnilingus on her. For those... God, the story gets better. For those unfamiliar with the term, Officer Lawrence Trinket noted in a second affidavit that cunnilingus is better known as the union of the mouth with the vulva. What the vulva, officer? Mulder and Bowe, the patrolman reported, were visible to park patrons as well as pedestrians and motorists passing by on a highly trafficked roadway adjacent to the park. The affidavit states that there was an indication of alcohol influence with regard to both defendants. And I'm reminded, of course, of the John Lennon quote, "What a fucked up world we," and I'm totally butchering. I'll paraphrase. "What a fucked up world we live in, where we make war and do violence in public with pride and confidence, and yet have to make love in private, in secret, and in shame." And it may be that I predict that in some impending sex positivity revolution, the leading civil disobedience activists will be those fornicating in public. Captain Case, it wouldn't be the news without a story from Florida. Yeah, it's the Smoking Gun. They have these great memes underneath. Dill don't and Florida man, guy with a Florida tattoo. The first comment, "Not my beloved Pinellas County again." The officer should have checked his watch. It was lunchtime. Brian Johnson will have some funny stuff right there. All right. Speaking of funny stuff, Ghislaine Maxwell denied bail for a third time from AFP. Yeah, denied bail. Wow. Accused sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell was denied bail by a New York judge for the third time on Monday. The British socialite denies charges that she recruited underage girls for her former partner, the disgraced U.S. financier Jeffrey Epstein, who killed himself in jail in 2019. She was denied bail in July and then again in December and remains in prison in Brooklyn, awaiting a trial due to start this summer as part of her third bail attempt. Maxwell had offered to give up her British and French passports, but Manhattan federal court judge Allison Nathan ruled she was still a flight risk. And this is the sort of legitimate justification, although I don't think it's legitimate because it's not true. But the judge said there were no combination of conditions that can reasonably assure her appearance if released. All right. Another celebrity news story here. Obama killed Epstein. Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Prince Harry, this is from the Wall Street Journal. Prince Harry has taken on a new job title, Chief Impact Officer at Better Up, one of those like celebrity board member positions. The Duke of Sussex is going to work for the unicorn employee coaching and mental health startup in his latest foray into business. The thing is, Prince Harry, with his name coming into any business, brings more value with his name and celebrity than any potential business acumen he might have. He really should. Like, what's your? I mean, it's weird. I don't know if he deserves any fault in this, but it's kind of a joke. No longer a working member of the royal family, Prince Harry has a new job, executive at a Silicon Valley startup. The Duke of Sussex will become Chief Impact Officer of Better Up Inc., the fast-growing coaching and mental health firm the company plans to announce Tuesday. And I'm all for like a coaching and mental health firm. That's becoming more of a thing. Human optimization, I'm all for it. The role is the latest foray into business for the Duke, who is with his wife, Meghan Markle, relinquished roles as full-time working members of the British monarchy and have tapped into their celebrity with a string of lucrative deals in recent months. Yeah, no kidding. Now, to the memory story. This is from inverse.com. Anna Funk writes, scientists can implant false memories and reverse them. And I'm a big fan of stories like this. I almost wanted to hold this to Friday as part of our good news story in human optimization. Not that manipulating memories necessarily is something that I would call good news or positive innovation, but it's definitely good understanding. And I'm sure this is going to have positive benefits for how we use our memories. Memories are tricky and can comprise much more than our actual recollections. Our minds can make memories out of stories we've heard or photographs we've seen, even when the actual recollections are long forgotten. And new research suggests this can happen even when stories aren't true. As psychologist Eileen Oberst at the University of Hagen in Germany tells Inverse, quote, I find it so interesting but also scary that we base our entire identity and what we think about our past on something that's so malleable and fallible. Oberst is the first author of a study released Monday in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences that examines false memories and what can be done to reverse them. False memories, the study suggests, are more than unsettling. When they take root, they can disrupt a courtroom and the fate of the individuals there. Necessary background. One of the biggest sources of false memories, says Oberst, is clinical psychologists who believe in repressed memories. This is the idea that a person who has experienced a traumatic event could selectively forget memories or their trauma. As she says, it's really well documented that what those people usually suffer from is to not be able to forget. They have flashbacks, they have PTSD, they cannot push it away. There's not much evidence for repression, but if a therapist says to a patient that their current symptoms suggest they may have, for example, been abused, and that if the patient doesn't remember it, it still could have happened, this can trigger false memories. And by the way, so like this has huge legal implications, right? Because if you think about this, if the human mind, this is how memory works. We synthesize things to fill in gaps to create useful narratives. Sometimes those useful narratives are victim narratives. And if you've been told, hey, you're fucked up, but don't worry, it's because of your childhood. It's not because of conditioning. It's not because of your miseducation from government. It's not because of the powers that be manipulating you. It's because you had some traumatic childhood experience. You were abused as a child. That's why you're crazy. You go, oh shit, maybe, well, let's find some suppressed memories. And really, you're fabricating them to create that narrative. And the next thing you know, I mean, this is you're blaming people. A lot of false narratives in memories are about avoiding responsibility or creating an explanation that relieves you of responsibility to allow you to continue suboptimal behavior as opposed to being accurate, precise, taking responsibility. So obviously, these false memories become a major problem when they end up as evidence in a courtroom, which is why researchers are studying not just how they're created, but how they can be identified and reversed. In the new study, Oberst and colleagues were able to successfully implant false memories in study subjects and then reverse them. What's new? The psychologists implanted false memories in 52 subjects with a median age of 23, thanks to critical assistance from the subjects' parents. The parents identified events that had and had not happened to their kids and generated 2 events that were plausible but had not happened. The researchers then asked the test subjects to recall each event, true or not, including details like who was present and when it happened. They met multiple times. By the 3rd session, most participants at least believed the false events had happened. More than half had developed actual false memories of them. This wasn't the first time researchers have demonstrated how easy it can be to implant false memories, but it was the first time they tried to reverse them without revealing to the subjects what had happened. They found two key methods to help participants differentiate their own real recollections from the false ones. One, asking them to recall the source of the memory. So this is really important for yourself too. Imagine you remember something, but you're not quite sure about the details. Instead of just trying to piece it together in your mind, go, well, where did I get this? Dig, do the research, examine the source. Blake Anderson, confabulation is a process by which the brain will cause false memories to explain things it cannot, but should be able to explain. Well said, confabulation, good word to describe that. So the other one here is explaining to them that being pressured to recall something multiple times can induce false memory. So just recall or explaining that help them untangle the real from the false. But this is something that a lot of people have as pressures in their life, in their subconscious from actual traumas or mental health issues that, if someone is always blaming you, it's pressure to recall something, to come up with a fabricated memory. It's, oh no, it's not my fault. Why this matters. Ultimately, the team found rich false memories can mostly be undone and can be undone relatively easily. If you can bring people to this point where they are aware of that, you can empower them to stay closer to their own memories and recollections and rule out the suggestion from other sources. Oberst says, you don't need to know what the truth of the matter is, which is why they're nice strategies. False memory expert Elizabeth Loftus, who was not involved, tells Inverse, it might be possible for people, prosecutors, police, or others, before they start prosecuting people, to try out some of these strategies before entangling potentially innocent people in awful legal nightmares. No, they don't want to do that. If they don't get to entangle people in awful legal nightmares, how will they justify their budgets and their salaries? Oberst and her colleagues didn't completely eradicate the false memories, but they did get their occurrence back down to about the level of their first session when they first mentioned the fake event, about a 15 to 25% acceptance rate. A year later, 74% of participants either rejected the false memories or said they had no memory of them. And Loftus says, faulty memory may not matter in everyday life. If I tell you I had chicken last night instead of pizza, it may not matter, but very precise memory does matter when we're talking about these legal cases. It matters whether the bad guy had curly hair or straight hair, or whether the car went through a red light or a green light. Yeah, no shit. Bill Gates. All right, we go to Bill Gates for the Daily Mail. This headline, could dimming the sun help to cool the earth? Bill Gates wants to spray millions of tons of chalk into the stratosphere to reflect sunlight and slow global warming, but critics fear it could be disastrous. Oh no, really? You want to fuck with? Fuck you. No. This project will see a test balloon launch this summer for the town of Karuna. It will send 2 kilograms of chalk in the stratosphere 12 miles above the Earth's surface. Scientists will then monitor who the dust particles interact with the atmosphere. How? I guess not who, typo. This will be fed into computer models to predict how a larger plume would work. The idea is to block out some of the sun's energy to cool down the Earth. Never mind how much we'll be fucking with the climate and inhaling chalk. Down to Earth, fortunately, downtoearth.org.in has this follow-up headline. Why geoengineering is still a dangerous techno-utopian dream. Experts have increasingly warned against manipulating Earth's natural systems. Yeah. Dangerous techno-utopian. Good description for Bill Gates. Mike Freeman, what could go wrong? Yeah, right. All right. From Popular Mechanics, here's that story I was teasing earlier. Humans contain 42 mystery chemicals, which is slightly concerning. We're not really sure where they came from. I'm like, what? Yeah. Scientists found 109 chemicals in the human body, including 42 mystery chemicals. The scientists matched chemical samples using spectrometry, and detective work. The chemicals are mostly from consumer products and aren't automatically harmful. Just as you contain multitudes, your body contains multiple chemicals, a total of 109, in fact, including 55 that have never been reported in humans before, and 42 mystery chemicals that come from unknown environmental sources, according to a new study from UC San Francisco. In the study, which appears in Environmental Science and Technology, scientists revealed the chemicals found in pregnant women's bodies. They say the chemicals have likely been there for a while, but high resolution spectrometry has only begun to reveal them in detail. The test chemicals researchers also rely on pure standard samples made by manufacturers, which they can't always get a hold of. Yeah, I was thinking about coming back to that on Friday, but it's a weird story. And I would remind, if you want to get into that and see the details, we just got 2 more to go here. Links in the notes at exclusively on our public Telegram channel, t.me/Adam versus the man. Please check it out. Insider.com, just a fun random story someone put in the producers club. Lebanon's skinniest building was reportedly built by a man who wanted to ruin his brother's seafront views, and it's like a building about a wall thick, an inhabitable wall constructed to block the sea view for the plot behind. Yeah, only people would do that. So the reason it's still here, according to urban myth, a Lebanese man built a skinny building to block his brother's seafront view after inheriting a smaller portion of land. He built the Grudge to devalue his brother's property. The architect Sandra Rashani told Insider no new structure can be built in its place because of zoning laws. Because government, the Grudge will stand. Finally, we end our headlines before we even get to the good news on this day in history with a little good news from the ndncollective.org. Charges against Nick Tilson and land defenders dropped. NDN Collective celebrates a victory for the movement. Today, NDN Collective announced that the charges against Nick Tilson, NDN Collective President and CEO, and all other land defenders arrested on July 3rd in the Black Hills will be dropped. This announcement comes after months of political pressure from grassroots groups, including petitions, social media campaigns, and local and national media coverage of the cases. So, small victory, but it's a good one for the activists. I'm happy to say good work for them evading unjust punishment at the hands of government in this case. And now we go back to co-host Comment Ed. How you doing today? How was that last batch of headlines for you, brother?
Pretty good. Hey, moving right along. These people are with you, and I'm with you too.
All right. Well, so what do we have for the comments? What are your favorite for your contest today? What was it? The good one we had earlier about illusions of authority being different from the reality we experience.
That was really good, but I'm still with the Ralston comment about you being able to purchase valuable property.
Yeah, that's the illusion of property. That's a big one, and that's like I wonder. We haven't heard. I mean, libertarians talk about self-ownership and try to connect with non-libertarians on that idea. Well, like, you own yourself, don't you? And everybody goes, well, yeah, of course I do. Well, you weren't ready to consider the implications of that? Oh, no, please don't make me question my worldview and obedience mentality. But the physical property, I don't hear used as much as a talking point. And maybe it's because people have, like, how many Americans, well, I guess if you're a home owner, even if the bank holds your note, you pay the property tax, right? That's how that works. So it's not like property taxes are a foreign concept, but I guess too many Americans are just renters. It doesn't really, is that why we don't use this more? But even your car, I guess the illusion is better with your car, but technically your vehicle ownership as a registered vehicle is at the privilege of the state.
Most people don't understand that the only people that own the land under their house are those that have allodial titles in Texas. It's the only state that I know of that allows for allodial titles. Alaska may, but I never really looked into it. In Texas, you could, the wildcatters, they needed to be able to own that oil they're taking out of the ground to be able to sell it, so they got allodial titles, which gave them the land under their domiciles and anything that's above the land, and they paid no property taxes because they technically owned their own property. Everybody else pays
Still,
property tax.
yeah. Now, see, I would still make the case that even the allodial title and concept is great because it's the full extent of your exercise of ownership claims under the jurisdiction of the United States federal government. But it's still under the jurisdiction of the United States federal government. Eminent domain, they change their mind. It's all who really owns it. But they get, if you file allodial paperwork, and there are other states where you can do it and it's not really as recognized, right? You're at least making that claim to absolute ownership of that land, but it's still an illusion that that's even respected, right?
I'm old, and my mother, God rest her soul, taught me possession is 9/10 of the law.
And the other tenth is how government is allowed to steal it from you.
The other 10th are those that are more powerful or resourceful or whatever you want to call it, coercive than you are. Depends on what it takes to get you off of what you have.
All right. Well, hey, before I forget, let's make sure our comment winner today gets hooked up with Jim at the Freedom Line, who's about to get his email on screen right there. Jim at the Freedom Line. If you're our contest winner today, say the name of the commenter again, please. Oh, we got a little connection issue on Ed's end there. Ed, you're breaking up right before your grand finale. Are you there? All right. Now we got you. Say it again.
I'm looking it up.
All right. Well. Uh-oh. Well, hopefully you were paying attention and you know who you are. And Ed, you made it to like 3.5 minutes to the end of the show. Great job, first time co-hosting. If you can get a thought out without getting cut off by the internet, any final thoughts today? No? Oh, Ed's gone. We lost Ed. All right. Comment Jim Freedom now, executive producer Jim Freedom. Take us home, brother, with the promos.
Okay, yep. All
Or
right.
play Smoke Weed Every Day. The show's over, man. Almost.
Smoke weed every day. Well, it's
Show's not over.
People should
All
just
right,
be doing that anyways for their health. So, as Adam mentioned earlier, please join our public Telegram channel, t.me versus Adam /Adam versus the man. If you want to be cool in the cool club and join the private Telegram channel, then you can go to adamversustheman.com like you see on the bottom of the screen. Once you get to that page, it looks like a good page. You'll see our commander in freedom there saluting you. Click on the Patreon button. It'll show you the different ways you can support the show. $10 a month is where it's at. That'll get you access to the Producers Club I mentioned. $10 a month gets you access to the private Producers Club all month. It's a great time. What is that sound? Is that yours? Do you hear that? Do you hear that? What is that? I can barely hear it. Oh, okay. I can barely hear it. It's real distorted. But okay, anyways, go back to the website. Check out the shop that CJ's put together. Check out all of our merchandise. We got Adam versus the Man logos or Freedom logos, hats, sweatshirts, hip sacks, bean bags, coffee mugs, everything you can think of. Definitely check the website out. After that, scroll back to the top of the page. See Cigar Federation right there. Click that button. You'll be magically internet teleported to cigarfederation.com, where you can scroll through all of their wonderfully flavored cigars. Use promo code ADAM10 to get 10% off of your entire order there, no matter how much you order. Check out the JSK Nugs. Those are CBD infused cigars. Absolutely delicious. And then lastly, if you're on Instagram, sorry, Adam, I know you're about to say something, but I got to tell them because I know you're about to put up a bunch of pictures of this storm that you're going through right now. So check out at the Garden of Freedom on Instagram. I got the video pulled up. At the Garden of Freedom on Instagram, check out everything that's going on up there in Gardenia. And then check out this flyer that he's got going on too, because he's recruiting for all kinds of different things. So if you want to get involved with all the different things Adam's got going on, right there at the bottom to apply, adam@thefreedomline.com. Good times.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, finally, good news on this day in history from goodnewsnetwork.org. It was on this day 65 years ago, Elvis's self-titled first album debuted. Of course, the iconic cover design later echoed by The Clash for the front of their 1979 album, London Calling. Elvis Presley spent 10 weeks at number one on the Billboard Top Pop charts in 1956. And on this day in 1839, the first recorded of use of OK as an abbreviation for all correct. But additionally, the phrase is thought to have come from the initials of a Native American chief who was known for keeping his word. On this day in 1939, the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Philippines was signed. On this day in 1978, the first peacekeeping troops arrived in Lebanon. On this day in 1980, Archbishop Oscar Romero of El Salvador made news when he appealed to the nation's armed forces to stop killing the Salvadorans. On this day in 1996, Taiwan held its first direct elections. On this day in 1998, the Titanic, the movie, won 11 major Academy Awards, tying the record set by Ben-Hur, and later Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. And on this day, 246 years ago, American founding father Patrick Henry spoke to Virginia legislators, where he famously proposed that their colony should join the revolution against King George and fight for independence. As he said, quote, "I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death." And with that, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.